This morning, let's explore letting go of cruel words. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you are looking for. This morning we could chant, meditate, and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Yoda learned to meditate on Dagobah under the guidance of Qui-Gon Jinn, be sure to subscribe and ring this notification bell. This morning we could explore letting go of cruel words that you too could meditate like a Jedi. If at any point during this morning's live stream you have a question about meditation, contemplation, philosophy, or even chanting, don't be shy. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Unless, of course, you're watching a replay, then you'll want to type your question in the comment area below the video. Well, it's dark 100 here in California, and if you are dappled and drowsy, you may wish to join me in 2 or 3 repetitions of geriatric step-back squat thrusts before a Buddha's image, a little thing some of us call enlightened fitness. May I liberate all beings by mastering the Eightfold Path through relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by mastering the Eightfold Path through relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by mastering the Eightfold Path through relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Let's explore letting go of cruel words. This is from a Buddhist highest yoga tantra practice. As such, we're going to rely on several things. We're going to rely upon the wisdom of letting go. We're going to contemplate the wisdom of letting go through mantra and metaphor and rhetorical question. We're all subject to cruel words. As children, as adults, from real people, from imaginary people, from ourselves. It is folly to try to poo-poo the pain we receive from real or imagined cruel words. Why, even the Buddha mentioned that all humans crave praise and hate scorn. This is not because we fail to realize emptiness. This is not because we believe in a self. This is because of evolution. For mammals, being accepted by the pack, or the herd, or the tribe was crucial to our survival. Members of the pack or herd or tribe who were held in high esteem had the most resources and the most safety. Those held in lowest esteem had the least resources and the least safety. This might not be fair, but it is a consistently observed phenomena, so consistently observed that it has influenced evolution's natural selection. The danger of just poo-pooing those feelings as an indictment against our ignorance or our belief in a self is that it actually creates the probability, it heightens the probability that we will undermine our own mindfulness and just come to repress our feelings rather than be mindful of our feelings. It's far more important, according to the Buddha, to be mindful of something ugly than to contrive something beautiful. So if we are feeling sorrow or rage or fear over the real or imagined cruelty of others against us, let's deal with it in a therapeutic way. So a way of the Buddha's teachings on emptiness were not designed to influence our belief or our perception, but as merely tools to help us to get better and better at letting go. In fact, they are designed to harness not only the analytical processes of our prefrontal cortex, but also the most bare-bone features of our autonomic nervous system. As you've heard me mention many times, every time we inhale, we access the sympathetic nervous system, which makes us remarkably mindful, perceptive, vulnerable, and passive, visceral and random. And every time we exhale, we are wired to access our parasympathetic nervous system, which is wired for physical relaxation and mental release. So where in meditation we practice this passively, in contemplation we practice this actively. So here's how it works. I'm going to convert the metaphor into a simile to aid in comprehension. So once again, this is a rhetorical question that I'm going to embellish upon for the sake of comprehension. How is it that as we inhale, we are able to observe all beings, our communication and the communication of our fellows, and the consequences of that communication upon our experience of the interpersonal? However, why is it that when we physically relax into our exhalation, this communication and its consequences upon our relationships could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, if it was as non-graspable as the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand? How is it that when we physically relax into our exhalation, this communication and its consequences could feel as if they were as non-graspable as a real or imagined mantra comprised only of light. So once again, this is a rhetorical question designed to take the existing mechanisms of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems and use them to help us not only to practice mindfulness, but the meditation of letting go. We apply it in the path of Tantra by blending it with meditation. So during our inhalation, we silently and mentally recite this rhetorical question. And then during our exhalation, in addition to whispering the mantra, we give our body permission to physically relax as best it can. And when we do this, believe it or not, it doesn't make the cruelty go away, but it helps us to make peace with the cruelty. Any idiot can be happy if everyone is lining up to bow before them. It takes a great man or woman to be able to make peace with the scorn and the cruelty of others. Now, let us not be foolish. We do not need to behave in such a manner as to force people to treat us badly. The trolls are going to treat us badly on their own. And everybody has foolish moods. So even kind people can have a bad day and be cruel to us. So there is no shortage of people already lining up to kick us in the pants. All we need to do right now is play with this rhetorical question, blend it with the physical relaxation latent in each exhalation, blend that with mantra recitation, and you've got an effective method. Good morning, Dr. Testani. It is always great to see you, Signore. How do I say good morning in Italian? Can you help me out with that? Every 12 hours, I broadcast a live meditation class without any ads. This channel is supported by the kindness of viewers just like you. With your help, this channel could come support the next generation of nuns, monks, yogis, lamas, and even brick-and-mortar meditation centers, each replete with a resident teacher and their apprentice. If this speaks to you and you'd like to help out, even for as little as the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month, just poke around the description area below the video. There you'll find a link for Patreon, another for PayPal, and 2 buttons, one for YouTube Join and one for YouTube Super Chat. In an absence of questions, I think it could be fun, together as a team, to chant a passage from the Digha Nikaya. Put away all hindrances, let your mind full of love pervade 1/4 of the world. And so to the 2nd quarter, and so the 3rd, and so the 4th. And thus the whole wide world above, below, around, and everywhere all together. Continue to pervade with love, fill thought abounding, sublime, beyond measure, free from hatred and ill will. But how we're going to do that? Glad you asked, because we're going to explore that both in the beginning and the end of this morning's practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. We're going to begin, but, well, let's begin by chanting that which we may have recited during the Enlightened Fitness. May I liberate all beings by mastering the Eightfold Path, by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Let's swap out that preposition. May I liberate all beings by mastering the Eightfold Path through relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by mastering the Eightfold Path through relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So what we're going to do is blend right aspiration, the second fold of the Eightfold Path, with kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce, the third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Eightfold Path. This is not unique to Theravada Buddhism. The great Tibetan saint Karma Chakmay Rinpoche taught that the essence of ethics is simply nonviolence. Let's explore nonviolence to body, speech, mind, and circumstance. We're going to take these well wishes, these intentions, and we're going to recite them silently and mentally in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. It's not our job to visualize, it's not our job to emote. If all we do is silently and mentally recite these words, they will influence our intention. It's not our job to choose what we feel. That is the path that leads to madness. But we can guide our intention with our words. Let's play with that right now. This morning I woke at about 3:30ish with memories of events, cruel words I was subjected to decades ago. And it was like a scab had torn off. And playing with the contemplations and meditations in this text really helped. Violent speech is not limited to cussing people or insulting people. Violence can be any form of coercion, trying to bend another to your will, trying to use words to defile another's autonomy, to commit some sort of verbal rape, if you will, to violate someone's free will. Sadly, in our culture, most of us are taught to do this, and it is often lauded as a key of being powerful. So, nonviolent activity would not be limited to kicking and punching, but also sexual assault. And including subtle sexual assault, striving to seduce someone, trying to use someone's feelings and body against their will, is a form of, once again, violating another's autonomy, which has nothing to do with love. So, nonviolence for commerce, what would that look like? It means we don't be a Karen. We don't try to always get someone fired. And we don't try to be a Chad, always trying to drive someone else out of business. Having exercised our right aspiration, our loving wishes, We now turn to the first fold of the Eightfold Path, a right view or a liberating view of reality. It's not our job to visualize or believe. If we simply play with these exercises in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, they will help us to get better and better at making peace with that which we hate, or that which we crave, or that to which we cling, or those with whom we compete. Vying is just a fancy word for competing. It is tragic that college professors are often asked to compete for tenure when they should be cooperating for the furtherment of knowledge. We now switch, 1 second, 1, 2, 3, 4, aha. We now turn our attention to interdependence. We do not wish to take a superstitious or a view of karma, thinking that because we insulted a dog 7 lifetimes ago, a cop is going to punch us in the face this life. It's far more effective to view interdependence as a tool to strengthen our empathy and our love and our desire to be in cooperation with others. We're using the word lots as a monosyllabic synonym of circumstances. We're using forms as a monosyllabic synonym for bodies. Contrary to the ravings of self-help teachers, we are not the captains of our fate. Not every variable is under our control. Most variables are not under control. We can eat right and exercise every day and still be poisoned by environmental toxins or toxins that have been allowed to enter the food system, even for clean foods, such things as microplastics have found their way even into plants. So, yes, there are many things out of our control, and knowledge of this should really make us much more empathetic to the foibles of others. We're using the word tie as an abbreviation of ties that bind, which is a synonym for our experience of the interpersonal. If you're fortunate enough to have a friendship with someone and that friend is under the weather, they might snap at you. If they have had a bad day, they might snap at you. Does that make it okay? No. But it does make it understandable. And it does, our knowledge of interdependence can help us to be more forgiving. let's explore impermanence. This is a this can be a scary, scary contemplation. Many unkind people choose to manipulate others with a fear of death. The Buddha did not try to do that. He simply taught that in the context of impermanence, clinging just seems like folly. Now we come to the fourth of four contemplations, one that has been met with great needless confusion. Our job here is not to philosophize nor blindly believe. We are merely playing with these oddly worded rhetorical questions for one reason and one reason only: to get more and more comfortable and more skillful at letting go. We have, in the West, we tend to view things through the lens of Christendom, and we tend to view Buddha's teachings through the lens of belief or disbelief. And while that might seem convenient, it creates more problems than it fixes. Why? Why is that? Because belief is about rigidity. It's about clinging to emotions and thoughts. Right? Emotions about thoughts and thoughts about emotions. And the path of letting go, that can prove to be a hindrance. So our job is not to believe. Our job is not to stifle what we are mindfulness. Be vulnerable to what we experience in the present moment. But play with it in a skillful way. Whatever comes up, it's not something to be believed nor disbelieved, but a toy to be played with like a child on Christmas morn. Once again, it's not our job to understand this or believe this, but just to play with it like a tool. Most of us are prone to getting calluses on our heels, so we'll often apply some sort of a file to work on those calluses. The file is just a tool. There's nothing magic about it. It's just a tool. The same thing can be said for these 20 contemplations. Having performed contemplations and rigorously exercised our prefrontal cortex, we must let it rest. If we do not let our prefrontal cortex rest, we are flirting with the causes of depression, a fatigued prefrontal cortex. So we let it rest right now by relying upon a different part of our mind, or I should say by emphasizing the autonomic nervous system. We practice mindfulness by silently and mentally reciting, feeling this as we inhale. And we practice meditation by silently and mentally reciting, relaxing as we exhale. Why is that? Every time we inhale, we access our sympathetic nervous system that supports the sensory acuity that allows us to perceive our sensations, flavors, scents, sounds, sights, and the like, as well as our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We are wired to perceive in a manner that is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. And when we get good at this, when we rediscover this wiring that we were born with, the only label we need ever use is simply the pronoun this. But whatever are we to do with all the stuff that we notice? Every exhalation inadvertently accesses our parasympathetic nervous system, which is wired to help us, which is wired for physical relaxation as well as mental release. What are some of the things we could find ourselves releasing? We could release our habitual resistance to the presence of what we hate. We could release our habitual resistance to the absence of what we crave. We could release our habitual resistance to the loss of that to which we cling. It's 32 minutes after the hour. Let's meditate. The screen's going to go nuts. Don't be afraid of breathing deeply. Allow your body to breathe as deeply as it wishes. That's an excellent question, Dr. Darren. So here, for this exercise, the Buddha talked about us feeling physical pleasure and emotional joy. So if we're not feeling pleasure and joy, we'll probably need to listen closer to our to our body. And this is where letting go really comes in, because those of us who were raised by a primary caregiver who was withholding of love and affection can make us feel very much less than. And we can become very mouse-like in asserting ourselves and even breathing. And so our body knows what it needs to do. It knows what it wants to do. It's that sometimes we have trouble perceiving, hearing our body's cries through the din of beliefs we forged in childhood to cope with such difficulties. I've seen people who are raised by adoring parents, and it's like they're a different species. I've also talked with fighter pilots, and they're also like a different species, but a lot more cocky. So now we switch gears from feeling this to watching this. And we will also find ourselves switching from bliss and joy to gladness and freedom. Not necessarily experienced intellectually, but viscerally. Let's conclude with 4 silent contemplations, wishing love, lovingly wishing joy for all minds. Let us wish peace for all relationships, professional, personal, platonic, and intimate. Let us wish profound health for all bodies. And good fortune for all circumstances. May everyone be free from stress, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance, free from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging. If you feel I have heard in approximately 10.5 hours, we could explore humiliation, the underlying fear, as well as chant and meditate some more. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.